Now, these chapters address a bit more of Solomon's fame and prosperity as his kingdom continues to expand. It shows you God's response to the temple. Solomon just has so much. He's got so much, and everybody knows it. And so you have this interplay between God and man. You have this interplay between Solomon, who's so close to God, and normal people. We'll keep on going as we do try to summarize a little bit of this, but honestly, you've passed the main point of what's important. Now we're just seeing the repercussions of all the great important things Solomon has done. When you get into chapter 9, God makes Solomon a promise that says, if you're faithful, I'll be with you. If you're not faithful, I won't be with you anymore. That's a pretty common promise. God's been saying it since right from the beginning. Eat from the tree and I won't be with you anymore. I told you not to eat from the tree. That's been true ever since the first few chapters of Genesis, and it's still here. Solomon also does some other things. He marries the daughter of Egypt, daughter of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, or at least he did all the way back in chapter 3. That was a bad decision he made before talking to God. He builds her a temple, or not a temple, sorry. He builds her a castle, a palace for herself. I don't really understand why, but he does. So that's the thing that happens. He's just rich enough that he can afford to do that kind of thing. In chapter 10, then there's a fairly familiar story where the Queen of Sheba comes up to talk to Solomon, and she essentially tries to talk down to Solomon. She tries to come up and impress Solomon with how much stuff she has. And when she rolls up to meet Solomon, she realizes she doesn't have nothing before him. He's way smarter than she gave him credit for being. He is much more blessed than she gave him credit for being. He is much richer than she gave him credit for being. And so they end up exchanging a bunch of stuff, and she leaves in awe about the things that Solomon has. As you close out chapter 10, then, it talks about some of the wealth that Solomon has, and this is where things start going sour. Because what you see in a very brief mention is that Solomon starts to get a lot of money in verse 14 of chapter 10. And in this Bible, it's 25 tons. That's the modern day equivalent. In some of the other translations, they call it 666 talents. 666 is not generally a good number. And then you get down to verse 26, and it says that Solomon accumulates chariots and horses, and he gets those horses from Egypt in verse 28. And he wasn't supposed to do that. These are violations of God's basic commandments for kings, reaching all the way back to Deuteronomy 17 or 18. And Solomon's going against two of them. The third one is you shouldn't have a lot of wives. I wonder if Solomon will violate that one, but that's something we'll have to talk about next week when we start in 1 Kings 11. Next week, we're studying 1 Kings 11 through 21. Hopefully this has been helpful this week. Read up on these readings, read up on those readings, and I'll catch you next week as we start to overview the downfall of the United Kingdom going into the divided